He is even for landing troops in Syria at this point. So, but President Obama has not reduced it as much as I would like. One thing that I am not in agreement with President Obama, I would have voted against Obamacare as it was constituted. Now, we need something. You can't just be against Obamacare and not for something. It seems to me that we now have accepted Obamacare to the extent that it's been legislated and the Supreme Court's ruled on it. There's been another presidential election. We now have to fix it as best we can, and we might be able to do that with more interstate competition, with more cost containment, and but I would work on helping to fix Obamacare. One of my problems with my party, my past party, I'm now an independent, is that you can be against something like Obamacare, but you have to be for something, because a lot of our citizens in South Dakota need some help, and our institutions, medical institutions outside of Sioux Falls, in the smaller towns, which I've just traveled the state, are very much in need of some help. I was also very hopeful that President Obama would, as he said, lower the deficit. He promised to appoint a commission. He did, the Simpson-Bowles, and said that he would adopt those numbers in his second term, but I've been disappointed that he has not. I think debt reduction is one of the most important things. I just hate it that we are leaving such a huge deficit. I have 4 grandchildren, and I don't want to leave that kind of a deficit behind. Now, I have also done a lot of veterans work with the I'm a national board member of the Jericho Homeless Veterans Organization, and I have worked hard to be sure that our veterans get their civil rights completely, and that that we meet our obligation to them. Let me also say that when I was in the Senate, I was a co-sponsor of the Equal Rights Amendment, because I feel that we have to treat our women on an equal basis as much as we can in pay and other areas, and that's an important issue to South Dakotans. That amendment was not adopted. It was controversial. But I have a long record in civil rights. I marched with Martin Luther King as a young person, and I very much have worked for our Native Americans, and in South Dakota we have an increasing number of minorities, and I plan to campaign to those minorities. This Senate race is not a foregone thing. I intend to campaign in every county and to all groups. One thing that I'd like to do is to improve the Senate debate, this Senate debate. And I shouldn't be so arrogant as to think I could improve the debate. But I just had a conversation yesterday with somebody who said, well, if you run, we may finally have a real Senate race again, because the last few have been coronations, and maybe with good reason, I don't know. But one thing I would say to my friends in the media is that in covering an independent, I hope you treat me the same as other candidates. An independent is not necessarily a spoiler or an intruder. Our law allows for independents to run with a certain number of signatures, which are fairly hard to get, and a certain process. And I feel that I want to be a spoiler of the system in Washington, D.C., and I want very much to have a good Senate race with debates, with real issues, a contested Senate race, not an uncontested. The issue has been arisen by some, can I win? They say that an independent, Frankenfeld, one of my co-chairmen or co-helpers, is a real numbers man out there in Rapid City. He testifies in court on the probability of things happening or not happening. And he says there's a very good chance that we could win with 35 to 40% of the vote. And but even if I don't win, the journey might be more important than the destination, in the sense that personally I've already been there, done that. I can live with or without it. I could go into my retirement very happily, but I want to serve. I genuinely, idealistically think I can make a small difference, and I hope maybe a bigger difference. And I have decided to enter this race, which against a lot of odds. It's very hard for an independent to raise money, and there's all sorts of different structural problems, people's reaction to it. But I've just completed a tour of the state, and I've done several voter voter groups, including one in Bob's home, and we had a great reception that night, and I thank you very much for getting all those young people there. And but people say we're fed up, we want some change, we want an independent, we want you to go down there without being obligated to run for re-election, without raising money, without voting to enhance your career. I mean, I will not be enhancing my career. I've already served 3 terms in the Senate. So anyway, those are some things that come across my mind. There are several other things. We have passed out a little letter from some of my supporters, and I think I have covered just about everything, and I will be glad to answer any questions you have. But in conclusion, I am a candidate for the U.S. Senate. I plan to win.
Senator Pressler, tell us about choosing to enter this particular race, especially in regards to the fact that in 1996, this was your seat, and then Senator Johnson won. Tell me about this race.
Well, I just had Tim warm it for me for a few years. No. And Tim Johnson has become my personal friend. I had a great stuttering problem as a child. And I went over to the hospital and saw Tim and Harriet and I identified with him. The fact that I used to want to say something, and I'd have it in my brain, until I got into speech therapy down at the University of South Dakota. I had a tough time with a stutter, and so I identify with somebody. So I admire Tim Johnson, the way he's worked for South Dakota on the Appropriations Committee, and in fact, in the next election, I voted for the guy who defeated me, but because I just identified with him and so forth. But anyway. Do parts of the Telecommunications Act, and they would have paid me $1 million a year. I still got their letter somewhere buried away. But I'm one former senator who did not get rich. I'm an adjunct professor, which means we need a union for adjunct professors. But I've also done a lot of other things. I've served on boards of some companies. I've had some business experience. But mostly I've been able to view things from an international perspective and a South Dakota perspective during those years, during the passing years.
Senator, talk a little bit about raising money. You've told me in the past that it pains you to ask for money, and it's probably going to take a lot of money to run a Senate campaign against your opponents, opponents whoever they are. What do you plan to do to raise the kind of money that it's going to take?
That's right. It takes a lot of money to tell people you haven't got any money. And so the problem in a Senate race is that it's not like a presidential race. A Senate race is messaging, very expensive. You do voter profiles, and you divide the voters up into maybe 18 groups, and then you send messages either through computers or postcards or something like that. Very few people listen to Senate debates. And this will be a problem for me because I won't have the money to already I'm being defined by messages to certain groups in this race, and I can't really respond. So this is a very serious problem. So I hope, the other thing I'm hoping is that we reach a point in history, when, at some point we'll reach this, when people will listen, when people will want to change, people will want an independent. People will realize that they won't just listen to the moneyed thing, because I can't possibly compete on the money front. So I'll do my very best, but I will need a lot of volunteers and others getting the message out. This is what American politics is more. It's kind of negative messaging under the table. Not under the table. It's not illegal. It's the way it works. But it'll be very hard to raise the money. But after today, I'm filing with the FEC, and I'll get little cards, and they'll say send a contribution. I'm also going to get on Facebook, where you can, I guess, push a button and make a contribution. But I'm hoping that we can raise some money, enough to be competitive.
Senator, after being out of Washington for a decade and a half, what was maybe a defining moment where you said, you know, I'd really like to see what I can do, see if I can do this again?
Well, I think one defining moment was when we announced that we were going to stay in Iraq for 10 more years. I said, I just would like to do something. That's just outrageous. That hasn't been decided by anybody. Also, another defining moment was the whole Snowden affair about the NSA, about the government surveillance of people, and I've had that experience. I haven't thought much about it, but it's one that, in terms of individual freedoms, and but I'd say that the defining moment has been several times when we just keep on this endless war. There's a writer at Boston University called Basevich who writes about we're now in World War IV or whatever, but it's an endless war. We keep going into more countries. Now we're going into Africa again with some more troops. McCain wants us to go into Syria with troops. We cannot afford, but it doesn't yield any result. Yields a counter result. As a Vietnam veteran, I think we'd have been better off if we never went to Vietnam. I think the Vietnamese people would like us better, and they'd be more free and so forth. So I don't know if that answers your question or not. But
Senator, how does one person make a difference in the Senate? Even if you're elected as an independent, you have to vote with someone.
Well, that's certainly true. It's hard. And as Teddy Roosevelt said, you've got to just get in there and try your best. An independent has a great advantage in the Senate in that they could join either caucus, and Angus King of Maine didn't announce which caucus he was going to join until after he talked about them. He wanted to be sure that he would be able to offer certain up or down votes and get a real vote on it. There are a lot of things in the Senate that are never voted on because they're either tabled or something. Everybody gives speeches about this stuff, but nobody does anything about it. So I think that as an independent, I would have much more power to ask for certain up or down votes, for example. Second of all, one is free to join these gangs of 6 or 8 that they now have in the Senate and to work on some of these big budgetary problems. If you're in the caucus, and I was chairman of a committee, you're pretty much obligated to stick with your party on basic votes, on budgetary votes, on national defense matters. But I think I could make a difference in the foreign military spending, because I think we're reaching a point in our history where we realize that this just isn't working. It hasn't been successful. And it really bleeds our domestic economy. We could have a booming economy here at home if we could balance the budget and make some decisions in Washington. I feel that way. We're being strangled by this present poisonous system, this fight between the two parties. And so I feel maybe I'm too much of an idealist, but I do think one person can make a difference, and I could make a difference in the Senate. If I don't get there, I think I'm going to make a difference with this campaign.
So which party would you caucus with? Have you decided?
No, I have not.
Where's your next stop then? Where do you go from here?
I go to, tomorrow morning, Harriet and I go to Watertown, and then we go on to Aberdeen, and then to Rapid City. In the old days, I would fly. I'd make my announcement in the morning in one town and fly to the next, but I don't have enough money to charter an airplane, so we're driving. So we've had to apologize to the folks in Rapid City for lack of funds for an airplane, but that's all right. We're going to drive it, and we'll...
Is Rapid City tomorrow, too?
No, that's on Monday.
That's on Monday?
Yep.
Watertown, Aberdeen tomorrow?
Yes.
Senator, what do you say to voters and other people who think your time has passed? Who look at you now and say, well, you've been gone for nearly 2 decades.
Yeah.
There's new people on the scene now.
Yes. Well, I shall challenge my younger opponents to a 5-mile run, first of all, if they say that my time has passed, which I took this morning. I took it indoor. But I'm 71 years of age, and I have more energy than I had when I was in my 30s, because I think I worry less about things. And so I'm ready to go. I can serve a 6-year term very well. My time may be past, but my time also may be coming, because I tie the two together. The time in the Senate, the time out of the Senate has been advantageous to listen to some people. You know, we seldom get a point in mid-career to stop and listen to a lot of people. I've listened to a lot of students worldwide here in South Dakota. I just finished a course at the University of Sioux Falls, helping to teach a course on American history, and I was able to talk about Washington sending the troops up to Pennsylvania to put down the Whiskey Rebellion with some authority, because I knew something about presidential power and congressional power. And so those years, so I think I have those experiences, and I think I'm just entering my prime.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.